So, thank you very much for coming along. We really hope that this is what you're kind of looking for. We've already heard that we've been mentioned, so no pressure here. I'm feeling a little bit nervous now, but hopefully, as I said, this will be what you're looking for, that you'll feel that you get something from it, and you take away something that then has an impact upon those that you are working with, whether it be young people or adults or whatever sector. Actually, this is secondary, isn't it? So that's what we're going to skip that. So, I'm just going to quickly introduce myself. So, I am Sara Turkington. I am the Quality and Inclusion Advisor at Ayrshire College. And joining me this afternoon is Kerry, Jarvis from East Ayrshire Council, Elaine, some of our young people from the Winning Academy, someone called Bethany McGrath, who is from the Mark Academy, and Johnpaul as well. Do we have any geography teachers here? I like how you timidly. Thankfully, I don't teach anymore because this is why. Just a quick thing to begin with. I've used the chevron as a geography teacher. Do you know much about Ayrshire?
Well, my family are from Ayrshire.
Well, you will know then that the chevron represents Ayrshire. And that's why I put it up there. I don't know why I feel the need to say Ayrshire like Ayrshire. But we are going to heavily focus on about Ayrshire and why we wanted to make a difference within that particular region. But beyond that, as I said already, there'll be things that you can take away to impact upon whatever region you're coming from. And because Ayrshire matters to us as individuals, that's what can spur us on. But I've kind of said that. So just to kind of get a feeling of where you're at in terms of your own LGBT plus understanding, Kerry's just going to do a quick 55 primary teacher thing.
So to introduce myself, my name's Kerry Jarvis. I'm currently working as a health and wellbeing development officer in East Ayrshire, but I'm a primary school teacher to trade. So when we were planning this presentation, we had grand ideas about, we really wanted to get an idea for where you guys are at, so we know how to pitch the presentation. We had grand ideas about how we were going to do that, but then we realised we had 50 minutes and 5 of us to speak. Actually more than 5 of us to speak. So we thought we'd just use a traditional teaching tool, a fist of 5. So as a primary school teacher, I can remember having many observations where if you used a tool like this and you weren't shown to be following it up, you would be absolutely slated. So nobody's going to be judging us on this today, but we just want to get an idea so that we know how to pitch the presentation. So if you can just show us where you're at in terms of your own kind of confidence with LGBT inclusion in your own establishment. So you can just show us a fist of 5. So 5, really confident, 0, not at all, anywhere in between.
Again, we're on a journey together, so don't feel that you can't do that. We are looking for honesty, because that will help us as we go through this together. Jodie, I'm glad you're in your feet. 2. Wow, that's really interesting.
Professionally, yeah, professionally. Yeah, I think we've got a lot of 1s, 2s, 3s in the room, so that gives us a good idea. Okay, thanks very much for this.
So, as I said, that's how we're going to. I've taken out your role already. You're the clicker. So, with that kind of understanding, we're just going to quickly reflect upon our journey as a network. As I said, Ayrshire matters to us, and that really became our rationale, our base for what we wanted to do. Ayrshire has 3 parts to it, north, south and east, but it's also home to kind of 2 of the most deprived areas in Scotland. So there's all of that complexity involved with identities, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. But it's just to give that kind of reflection. Thinking about the network, myself and Kerry met through someone that we were working with mutually. And Kerry probably regrets that, because ever since then I've been banging on about a network and how we had to get one started, because I could understand not only what was happening in Ayrshire, but I could see a national picture that was showing us that LGBT plus experiences educationally was very different from their heterosexual peers and from those who were cisgender as well. Again, as I said, looking back on my own experiences through education and what I would later go on to do, being a modern studies teacher and then working within the college. And principally, I just looked at a figure I was sharing with Kerry the other day. I learned that last year, academically, only 50% of our trans students passed in the college. 50% in comparison to a college average of about 70%. Now, that is concerning. and it's probably being replicated or seen in other colleges as well, that led us to a place, or that those types of figures led us to a place of thinking, if we could establish a network which would bring college practitioners together, that would bring teachers together, that would bring others together like ourselves. So we've also had NHS, vibrant communities, who are a community bit of East Ayrshire, a collection of people who are willing to come together quarterly. Well, that was the idea originally. We would then be able to share knowledge, we'd be able to share learning, and we would then be able to use that to get us to a place that 50% would become 70%, and hopefully improve. So we met in November, we created a network. We had our first network meet at Kilmarnock campus at Ayrshire College. At the time, I was hugely ambitious. Kerry reined me in to be realistic. I was thinking there's going to be 100 people there, we should aim for that. But realistically, we probably thought we would get 10 people. And we roped in a line thinking that at Kilmarnock Academy they would bring people with them, which they certainly did. That first network meet had about 40 people or thereabouts, and that number has consistently continued. Sometimes it's had a slight drop, but I think we're aware of the academic year and different pressures on people. But it has really got us to a place where we are now, is that we've had 4 meets in total, and they've been full meets for 2 hours, from 4 to 6. Again, just thinking about the complexity of the region of Ayrshire, we tried to originally just have them all at the college, but now we're broadening out, and the last one we had was at Prestwick Academy, and the ambition being to rotate it. And at Prestwick we had Thai campaign come down, and so we've had different things going on, as well as trans, and Kerry will speak a wee bit more about that. There was also a kind of idea that I kind of shared with Kerry and a few of the others about having joined the network local events. Kerry said, no, I'm not sure about us, I'm not sure. But what that actually led to us doing is we went to Kilmarnock Academy, we went to Prestwick Academy, we went to Kilmarnock Academy to try and reach out to people that we hadn't previously seen, who weren't coming along to the network. And through that, we were able then to now be in a place of having 100 members. Now again, you might think, well, 100, but for us, that's an achievement, and that's a big achievement. And what we're going to continue doing this year is move forward in our journey, knowing that the network has got an important role to play within Ayrshire, and it's demonstrating its impact.
Okay, I just want to tell you a wee bit about the impact of the network that we created and about partnership working. So the big thing for us that we've seen is that the network members are actually implementing what they're learning into their practice, taking it into schools and into their workplace setting, which is fantastic. So when I work in East Ayrshire, so when we started the network, we only had 4 schools in the authority that had some kind of equality or LGBT pupil group. And now all of our secondary schools have a group as a result of the network and sharing that good practice. We've also got 2 of our ASM provisions that have active LGBT groups. And we've also got our primary schools that are starting to get on board now, which is absolutely fantastic. So we had a primary school in South Ayrshire who came along to the network, and they were talking about the fantastic work that was going on at their school and the journey to LGBT inclusion. And now what I'm seeing in East Ayrshire is that schools are replicating that. So the network is a fantastic place for teachers to come along and just share fantastic practice. So that has been a massive impact of the network. Huge part of this has been down to Johnpaul, who you'll hear from later, Bethany, and Elaine, and our young people from Kilwinning. So they're the people driving this in their schools, and they're the people that our teachers are coming along. They want to hear from them. They want to see these fantastic ideas. So you will hear from them later on. You're going to hear some absolutely fantastic ideas to take back to your own establishments. We've also seen a huge increase in the number of schools in the authority that have actually got their LGBT charter mark, or that are currently applying for it, which is fantastic. And again, this was hugely down to Kilwinning Academy. They came along to our first network meeting and they shared their journey towards getting their LGBT charter mark, and that's inspired a lot of teachers in the 3 Ayrshires to do the same, which has been fantastic. At our second meeting, we listened to the feedback we got at our first network meeting. So what teachers were telling us was where they were most lacking confidence was around trans policy and trans practice. So we listened to this, and at our second network meeting we ran a session around about this area. So we got some experts in to talk about it. This was an area that teachers really lacked confidence in. So after that session we gathered a wee bit of feedback, and so 95% of them told us that they felt we really broadened their knowledge and understanding of transgender policy and practice, which was fantastic and a huge achievement for us. In terms of the college, I realise I'm talking about schools a lot, because that's where I come in, but in terms of the college as well, great progress being made there in terms of embedding LGBT inclusion within the Access to Primary Education programme in the early years curriculum, which has been fantastic. I went along to Ayrshire College and helped to deliver a session for primary teachers, and for me that was just fantastic, because as a primary school teacher I wasn't given any opportunities like that when I was training, so it's great to see the progress being made. You can see here that the members of the network have increased their knowledge and understanding, they've benefited from it, but for me the biggest impact of this partnership working is it's about our young people, and you're going to hear from our young people from Kilwinning Academy and also a little video from Kilmarnock Academy to tell you really what difference this partnership working is having on our young people. So I will pass you on to Elaine, who's going to get to get myself first.
Good afternoon. Thanks for so many of you coming and obviously showing an interest in what we do, we're much appreciated. I'm also aware of the time. Your heads are probably full of information overload, and I've been to these conferences too, and it gets this time in the afternoon you start to kind of switch off. But keep switched on for just a wee bit longer, because I think you'll enjoy the rest of the presentation. So my name is Elaine Connor, excuse me, Kilwinning Academy, and I have the pleasure and privilege of facilitating our LGBT plus group in Kilwinning Academy on a Thursday after school. We started in November 2016, and at that point we had 6 young people, and we made a focus group, and as word got out across the whole school, we now have at least a kind of core group of, the most we ever had one night was 32 young people come to the group. So it really has grown. We here at Kilwinning Academy are to talk today about the whole school approach, about how the whole school appreciates everything and supports our LGBT plus community. I could stand and talk all afternoon about it, because I'm very proud of what Kilwinning Academy has achieved and is continuing to do so, but I feel it's better if you hear it coming from the young people themselves. So today I brought along Emma and Stephen, who are our LGBT plus ambassadors. We elected ambassadors in the school, and they have an active and very visible role in the school, and they always come to the network occasions that Sara and Kerry have been talking about. At the end of this, if you have any questions at all, we'll all be happy to answer your questions, but right now I'd prefer to hand you over to Emma and Stephen.
Thank you very much. Earlier I'm sure you heard that Sara said that she's slightly nervous. I'm completely terrified. Normally it's the exact reverse of this situation. I'm in a room full of people my age being talked to by someone much older, and now it's the reverse, which I know it feels a little good to be in the shoes that I'm used to seeing all the time. But I'll sort of get on to the sort of why we're here anyway. So at Kilwinning Academy, one thing that's extremely important to us are our values, and you can see them up there. Oh, hi, they are there, good. Our values are extremely important to us, and one of those values is belonging, to make sure that everyone feels that they belong, that they are a part of Kilwinning Academy, and not just Kilwinning Academy, but Kilwinning, part of North Ayrshire, to make sure that everyone knows that they belong. This is where they should be. Apologies, I'm actually going to have to check my notes occasionally here. So I want to make sure that everyone, again, as I've said, feels that they belong. At Kilwinning Academy, we recognised that we could do more. You know, the school was never bad when it came to sort of LGBT representation, but there's always room for improvement. No one can ever be perfect. And at Kilwinning Academy, we took that to heart, and we were like, we've got to do more. What are we not doing that we can do? And part of that, very briefly, because it's not really our topic, but a group was developed, one that I attended, I think, one of the first few meetings. And one of the things that we did was visibility within this. That's not my idea though, I just realised.
That's mine.
As I said, I'm actually quite terrified right now. So please, honestly, forgive me here. But one of the things that we made sure to do was get our staff trained, because as a lot of you did earlier, you know, 1s, 2s, 3s, not really sort of well educated on LGBT issues, and that makes sense. Now I don't want to obviously assume here, but imagine when a lot of you did your teacher training, not going to say years, don't want to check here, but when some of you done your teacher training, I imagine this wasn't exactly something that was talked about in society. It was hush hush, it was quiet. We don't mention that. We know they exist, but we don't speak about it. So it makes sense that a lot don't really know about these sort of issues. And so we were like, well, the first step is to get our staff trained. And over some of the trainings that we did as part of our work to get the Bronze Charter mark for LGBT in Scotland, more than half of our teaching staff attended, which is quite frankly a massive achievement given the immense workload that teachers are under. From what I've heard anyway, it's getting much worse. Maybe it doesn't help that I'm constantly handing in essays to get a mark, but you know, the teacher offered to get all my essays in, so it's your fault. And so another thing that we did was, once these staff were trained, once they were equipped with the tools that they need to properly affect change in the school, Elaine, who is to my right, went on to do the teacher training with Stonewall Scotland, which means that these sort of trainings can be done more often, more effective, with more resources. Some of the resources are up the very back, which I'm sure you'll see at the very end. And what this means is these trainings can go on, you know, year in, year out. You know, if something happens, you know, go ahead as expected. Again, sorry about this. Another thing that we do is, we obviously have a lot of values, and belonging isn't the only one that's important to us. Responsibility is also important, something that can be seen as through the LGBT ambassador role, where myself and Emma are given a lot of responsibility. I mean, we're here today, aren't we? As well as that, there's also ambition. We want pupils at Clean Academy to strive to be the best that they can be. And again, in relation to LGBT, a lot of pupils might not have LGBT role models that they can look up to. You know, some won't know that Alan Turing, you know, the founder of computing science, definitely wasn't my opinion, you know, the founder of computing science was a gay man. People don't know this, and so they have no one to look up to, and no role models. And without role models, you know, people will be lost. Another thing is inspiration. Not only do we want them to be the best they can be, but we want them to realise what they think is their best. Maybe they can actually do better than that. They don't think highly enough of themselves. And respect. It's important that pupils respect one another, respect different identities, and even if you disagree with someone over identities or anything like that, as long as you can understand that, sure, I have a different opinion, you have a different opinion, but that's fine. That's the society that we live in. If we were all the same, it'd be quite boring, wouldn't it? And then finally, dedication. You know, we want our pupils to be dedicated and put in a lot of work, and again, the ambassador role is an example of dedication. Myself and Ella, we spend a lot of time out of school, during our own lunch times, study periods, etc., to get work for this done. And so, yeah, this sort of values are very important, and through stuff like the ambassador programme, we like to put that sort of thing forward.
Going on to visibility now, I need to look at my notes as well, like Stephen. Part of the LGBT young people feel that they belong in Corn Academy, and is ensuring that issues are faced by them are visible. We do this by putting up LGBT posters from Stonewall, LGBT Scotland. We have examples of it at the back there, as well as we got the teaching staff
to sign an LGBT youth coffee morning, to all sign an LGBT flag as well as a transgender flag. That's up there as well if you want to see it at the end. I'm so sorry. To compliment, oh wait, sorry. We also have our, it's a fixture inside the school now. We have the LGBT flag flying high so that anyone who's coming to that school, anyone who's visiting will know that we're inclusive, we are accepting of LGBT. As part of LGBT History Month, we raise donations which are given from the teaching staff and pupils. So we do this by selling badges, ribbons. So me and Stephen will go out our way during classes to go around to classes to ask anyone if they want to donate. And we've done like raffles for the coffee morning. Thanks to this, in 2017 we raised £859. In 2018 we raised £1,043, and we topped it again this year with £1,100, which I'm quite proud of. This ensures that LGBT young people are not left in the dark, unsure, or the stance on LGBT issues and young people.
And finally, arguably one of the more important areas is leadership. So all of this would not be possible at Winning Academy, including myself and Emma being here today, if it wasn't for the leadership which has been shown by the senior leadership team at Winning Academy, especially thanks to Mr. Swan, who's our head teacher, who's actually covered all our expenses to be here today. And good thing that train ticket was expensive. It's Mr. Swan who's every year he's greenlit us doing our Purple Friday, having a dress down day, as well as the staff coffee morning. Also extremely instrumental is Mrs. Sloan, who very sadly can't be here today, who, thanks to Mrs. Sloan, we actually got this group. It was Mrs. Sloan and Elaine together who established this. Leadership isn't only seen in our staff though, as alluded to earlier, it's also shown in our pupils. And again, not to toot my own horn here, but I like to think I show a little bit of leadership. This is again achieved through our ambassador programme, where responsibility, or values, is placed upon these ambassadors. Myself and Emma are part of this programme, as you might be able to guess. Leadership is extremely important because if a decision is not coming down from the top, it's not really going to be followed. I do have a bit of a quote about this, and I'll finish up with that. And that is that leadership is extremely important, and especially from those high up in the totem pole. And this is because if the leadership don't make the first move, then how can they expect anyone to follow them? That's all.
Hello, my name is Johnpaul, and I am a Mum's Eyes teacher at Prestwick Academy. Like pretty much every single one of my lessons, we're already running over time, so that's also great. I will just say I think you did really well standing up here. Please don't apologise for using your notes. Trust me, we do that all the time. I will say your history teacher is my best friend, and I'll be telling her tonight. So, as I said, I'm from Prestwick Academy. I'm relatively new to teaching, but pretty much straight out of probation, I went to Prestwick. And we've been on this journey, and when we were sort of assessing ourselves there, our 1, 2, 3, how confidence we feel, I link myself as a 2 because I recognise the more I do this, the more there's so much more to go, there's so much further to go. But it's bases like this, working with people that have been, that tells me that there is a journey that we're on, but there is a path, and there is targets to work towards. For us as a school, I'm here to kind of talk about how we've embedded LGBT identities across our curriculum, and really that's is a pathfinder for us. So to start us off, what we did was we did a survey of our students and of our staff. We asked our students how confident are they coming to our school, how included do they feel coming to our school, how safe do they feel coming to our school. We asked questions on self-harm, on suicide rates, and we asked our staff the same. And staff felt they were confident, they were covering it, they felt the school was safe, we were secure, we were inclusive. Students didn't say the same. And and we presented that to our staff, and then we set them a challenge. And this is kind of the reflective of where we've gone and how our staff have risen to that. So, I've got an example here. Each of you have on your chairs, I hope, one of the starters from our modern languages department. And that's just me filling for enough time to play a little bit of a video for you. Are there any Eurovision fans in the room? I'm really sorry. A wee bit of a spoiler. A wee bit of a spoiler for you here. So this is France's entry that will be featuring very shortly in Tel Aviv.
I am me, and I know I will always be. Je suis free, oui j'invente ma vie.
So this is France's entry to Eurovision, and what the Modern Languages Department they've done is they've taken the lyrics of the song and they've almost fill in the blanks for students to listen along to it, identify new terminology and put it in pretty standard. But what it presents and allows for them is the opportunity to talk about identity, talk about confidence in being yourself and not standing up in the face of adversity, which this song, this video kind of touches on. And that is, I think it represents our approach at Prestwick quite well. How we're not creating lessons that are about, okay, today is our lesson about gay people, today is our lesson about transgender. It's rather, here's our lesson about nouns, or our names, and here's our lesson about family. And it's just embedded as a part of that. Yeah, so I'm speaking with some of our students about what this has meant for them, this impact. Some of the things they've said that making the transition from primary school to the big school has been better, felt safer, they felt more confident because they feel there's people like them or that people that they identify with are talked about, they're visible. There's a really interesting phrase one of our students said to me, that the world is turning around, and seeing people like them, having space to learn bit by bit by bit about who they might be or who the people around them might be, helps them to turn with the world. And I thought that was really quite good, quite powerful. And they say that if you, yes, there's a role for it in PSE, but it can't just be left down to PSE. It's something, this is the world around them, our job is to prepare them for the world. And so our subjects, very much, there is a way of embedding that in. So some of the subjects I'm going to introduce quickly are modern languages, computing, science, music, English, modern studies, history and art. For the show of hands, anyone who is any of these subjects are curricular areas. Great. So I hope that this might offer you a little bit of inspiration for your own topics and subjects. For those who aren't, I hope that it might still offer some inspiration for your own subjects and topics, but also that maybe there's something you can take away to share with others. And I think that's something that's important to all of us. So as I was saying, modern languages, I've shown you an example of one of the videos they've used. They also, when talking about family, use examples of the Kardashians, one celebrities, to have discussions around father, mother, for that. Computing. Computing is a really interesting one where students were tasked to design a website. So the thing that's being assessed here was their coding skills. But to prepare them for that, they had to research, I think I've got some of the things, yeah, so they had to research 4 things, so it could be LGBT identities, terminology, facts and statistics, so that they could incorporate into their website. So as I say, the task was very much about computing, but to give them something to work on, that content, it was LGBT identities. And so that, for first years, I already told them, as they arrived in school, this is our lot. And one, they said, actually, being in computing helped them understand a little bit more about who they are. Probably not the subject, no offense to any computing teachers, they probably go to thinking, I'm going to understand myself a little bit more when engaging with in there. Science, and this, I think, I included this because I think it's quite useful to see, here is their series of lessons in the process of life. And I put it in bold, paths to parenthood, because that's our approach, it's embedding it within our curriculum. And so when it comes to that lesson, students look at IVF, creation of modern families, adoption, surrogacy. And to get around that barrier, that issue of, okay, how do we make sure there's consistency, how do we make sure that all of our students are getting this experience, having it in our assessments. And that, it means that it's there, it's something that all students are exposed to. Music, we're using the new Queen film, Bohemian Rhapsody, to explore the music, the context of those songs and the era. In English, they've been looking at current issues, so they focus on text about transgender people's experiences from going to the toilet. That's created a space which, sorry, I'm going to rush through with time, has allowed students to kind of reflect on our own school and the experiences of people who are maybe a bit different from them, and what they face, to encourage them to feel empathy, to understand the barriers that can still exist around us. My own subject, Modern Studies, I can incorporate through quite a lot of our areas, but one of the things we've done was we've put the Thai pressure group, where they actually study it. They look at how effective and what the changes are going to be for them. And I mentioned this as a pathfinder for us as a school. Where are we going next? Looking at better visibility for people with disabilities, for ethnic minorities, for women. And so that's kind of inspired me within our higher course. We look at the impact of gender inequality on women now. We look at toxic masculinity as a cause of health inequality for men. And it's because this approach with creating greater visibility for LGBT people helps to make it better for all of our society. Just beside notes is history, when talking about World War II, we mentioned Alan Turing. We'll certainly talk about him and the people who were persecuted as part of the Holocaust. And then art, and there's just a few examples around the room. They study an artist called Grayson Kerry, who's a ceramicist. So he takes topics that are sort of current affairs issues, and the students have a long list of things that they can pick out of, from mental health to racism, to looking at human rights, LGBT rights, and I've got a selection of them dotted around the room. The art department tell me that this is less than I've seen, it's about 20 current affairs topics on it. Students consistently again and again pick LGBT rights as an issue. So that tells me that's something that they want to know more about, something they want to talk about. And the final what I can pick up with is the students, by us having this not just for KSE, not just when we're with our guidance teachers, but across the curriculum, seeing teachers who have a landlord like this, who will stand up and have this as part of their lesson, means they can put their hand up, they can maybe ask a question there because it feels safe. And so I think that's something that's really important. Okay. Sorry for time. Bethany. Thank you.
Hello, so I'm Bethany McGrath. I'm the wee kid on the team. I'm the baby of the group. I am a teacher of music at Command Academy, so I completed my probation year last year, and I had grand plans for when I started my probation year, as all probationers do, and part of mine was to start up an LGBT plus committee. So I'm going to talk to you about the journey towards developing and sustaining an LGBT plus curriculum group, and it's the sustaining part that I'm going to talk to you more about, because we're not just paying this lip service, this is an integral part of our extracurricular calendar, and it happens week on week, and I'm going to talk to you about that. So one of you might have seen an issue tree, you might have used that in your classes before, and this is something which I use with the group. So an issue tree, basically, I'll get an artist in the group to draw it. I am a music teacher, that's just the way my creativity lies, it's not the drawing. Get the young people to draw a tree, and in the middle we'll have an issue, whether it's discrimination, whether it's a trans issue that's going on, or something in the media. The roots of the tree are the causes of the issue, the branches are the effects, what outwardly that looks like, and then the leaves are the solutions. So actually, what can we do to fix that? So when I started my probation year, my issue was the fact that there was a lack of support for LGBT young people in the school at Command Academy that I was at. So I'm going to talk you through my thought process as though we're an issue tree, because this is, as I say, an activity I do with young people. So causes, why was there no support? Well, we're all teachers, we know it's mental, the workload is crazy. So staff workload, curricular staff going, well, that's the pastoral support team's remit, and pastoral support going, have you seen the list of names I need to contact today? Like, absolutely no chance. Just a lack of knowledge, people not really knowing what they're talking about, hence why we have spaces like this. And scared of saying the wrong thing. There's so many people that I just don't want to offend anybody. As long as you say it respectfully, you're not going to offend anybody. So having those conversations. What are the effects? Well, the effects of not having the group. For our LGBT young people, poor mental well-being, that feeling of being lost, poor attendance, which obviously impacts the attainment. Sara was giving us some statistics earlier. But looking at our CMIS data, there's a couple of young people that I'll pick out, but there was a young trans person who's in 5th year, and for the whole month of November, hardly came to school. Hardly came to school at all. We sat down, we had a wee chat, and we reintegrated them back into the group again, and now they're back to school all the time. They know where my office is. When I looked deeper actually into their series results, it was 1 week of the month which they weren't coming to school. And into a womb, will know what that month is. But when you're a boy and have a womb, that's even harder. So we discovered, or I clicked onto the fact that that was so embarrassing for that young person to either speak to their family, but that or to be the boy that goes in and buys tampons. So we came up with a strategy, and that's one thing that young person's come, they're sitting their hires, they're absolutely ready to go with their hires, and that's something that I can help support them with. I can't help them with their English, I can't help them with their maths, but I can help them with getting themselves over that threshold and actually getting into the class, and therefore obviously that will affect their attainment. Solutions, I said to myself, well, what actually can I do? I'm only a day probationer. What can I do with these grand plans? And we could have assemblies, we could celebrate LGBT History Month, we could have a staff champion, which I now am, we could have pupil champions. And I thought the best place to start off with is starting off with committees, with a GSA, a Gay Straight Alliance, or with a committee. So I went to my head teacher and went, Mr. Rose, I want to start a committee. They went, oh, you don't know how schools work, you can't just do what you like. So, so what I was suggested that I did was I had a survey that I delivered to PSE class, or I gave to PSE teachers, and they returned to get me some data so that I could say to my head teacher, here we go, we definitely need it. So here are some of the questions. You can see that there's homophobic language being used all the time. We see this in schools all the time, whether that's gay or you're a poof or whatever. That's not appropriate. And people hear it all the time. Looking at the spread of results for the addressing a transgender person, most times it's not people being rude. It's just a lack of knowledge. So there was clearly a need for that. So David said, absolutely yes, you can go for it. If you've got the energy and you want to do it, then that's your baby. Go with it. So I did. So, how did I actually start up? I went right, okay, right, I'm detailed, I'm going to do this, but how do I actually do it? So, I said to myself, well, I need to get a date or time, so we went for a Friday lunchtime, and we chose a space that was not my own classroom. As a music teacher, people think, oh, that's dead gushing and creative and that, and I have to just go sing Greeks. No, that's not what our subject is about. Here's a lovely glockenspiel, which we have in our picture also. So we set it up in another classroom. It was in an IT classroom, which obviously gave us the able to access IT equipment to do research tasks and stuff. Put it on the pupil bulletin. In our school we have a bulletin. We put it on the extracurricular timetable. I was promoting it within my classes, other members of staff. Obviously I was a new kid in the block, so I didn't know every young person, so talking to other members of staff and saying you might want to catch up with this young person, I think it would be useful if this young person came along. So when that started out with our stereotypes activity and had everything going, had my Skittles out, I had my taster rainbow, I was like, yes, new kid in the block, I'm going to go for this. And then I played the waiting game and I hoped to God that somebody would come along, and they did. There was a group of 6 young people that came along to the first meeting, and it's just grew from there. We've moved into a new school, we've since amalgamated with another secondary school, and it's just kept on going and kept on going. So that's how I kind of started the group. And if you're thinking of starting a group, it is a scary experience going, is the ditch going to turn up, is this going to work, and how do we get ourselves there? What's working well? I said that I'm here to talk about sustaining the group. Our group, I'll show you the next slide, we had 22 people there on Friday, the previous Friday. What's working well? Ownership of the group. If people's leading the group, I'm just there to facilitate. They turn up, it's their group. If they want to learn something, I'll make sure that they do that. I have an activity for each session, which I'll show you in the next slide. Every session there's something for them to do, they've got a goal, they don't just feel there, it's not just that, oh, it's dead hard being gay. That's not what the group's about. We're going to action this, we're going to change this, I'm not up for that chat, right? So we are here to make change and we're here to make progress, and that's what the group is all about. Having goals throughout the year, whether it's History Month, whether it's, we've got a lot of partnership work with Leap Sports and LGBT Scotland, and there's all things going. LGBT History Month, I've had loads of things, similar to what Johnpaul was doing. In order to kickstart that in our school, who wanted to, the departments in our school opted in and decided that they were going to deliver an LGBT themed lesson in their department or a group of lessons, and then the resources which they created were then put in a display room, and then everyone was able to see the good work that was going on. We've got wider staff engagement. This is some of our teachers wearing our pronoun badges. The young people decided they wanted to make pronoun badges. They didn't want staff to wear laces or wear lanyards. They wanted to make something to start a conversation about gender. Sexuality, people are getting their heads around that. Gender, some people still don't get that, so we decided that we wanted to go down the gender route, and we had our pronouns. And wider community engagement, having diversity days and having things going on in the community that we can say, this is awesome what's going on at the Academy, Saturday morning, get out your beds, let's go show what we're doing. So they do. Activities, what activities could the sessions include? It's really important every so often in our group we have a round robin, so not every week, but when there's some new faces we go round and we'll say, my name's Miss McGrath, I use feminine pronouns and my favourite Disney character is Mulan. Next, and we fly ourselves around and we give a fun fact. Young people can talk about sexuality if they like, but it's more appropriate, well, they can talk about things what they like in the group, but it's more important for us to know what pronouns people are using so we're addressing people correctly within the group. Issue trees, you saw that, at other visual starters to get conversations starting. News of the week, we've got a media officer who fires things across me on Twitter if somebody after syllabuses came out or if there's a country that's legalised same-sex marriage. News of the week. Preparing presentations for the things that we've got coming up. Teacher talk, staff every so often come along on a Friday. Every time a new teacher comes along, we give them a little quiz, a wee interview. If there's especially if a male teacher comes along, we're looking for more male representation in this area. I'll get a young boy to go and interview that teacher and have that chat and have that space. Not necessarily LGBT teachers, just other teachers going along and going, like, you're alright, pal, that's fine, but get your maths homework done. So, and they might do that because they realise that actually that teacher's alright, that teacher thinks I'm game, that's alright. So, we have speakers then, we have library trips, and the champions, similar to what they have at the Academy, we have our own champions and they get the good jobs. They get to do things like revising the behaviour policies, liaising with the Rights Respecting School ambassadors. Most schools these days are on the Rights Respecting School train, and it all links up. You'll know if when you look at your criteria for achieving your silver or your gold, it's all about respecting diversity and everybody. There's pupil-led content, and there's so much that it crosses over with the LGBT charter mark, which we are trying to achieve. So there's so many things that cross over, and this is everybody's responsibility. And in the next couple of years, you'll know obviously that LGBTI education is being included, and the experiences and outcomes, they're there, they're ready to go on that nice little green bit at the health and wellbeing one, the one I'm talking about. They're going on there, and you can't avoid, and this is a responsibility for also getting ahead of the game and just reminding yourself why we're doing this. It's for the young people. What's the impact? As I said earlier, you can read the statistics for yourself, but this is a statement from one of our trans pupils, one who wasn't coming to school and then came back in. You can have a read over that yourself, but the smiles on their faces and the buzz that we get on a group, it's just an absolute carry on a Friday lunchtime. I mean, I've got third years period after and nothing happens in that period because I'm like, oh god, it's all rainbows and unicorns and I need a second to gather my wits. But the impact is the kids are coming to school, the kids are coming, they know where to go to find help, and they might not want to speak to their guidance teacher about certain issues. They come to me and speak about something completely different that they don't like, non-related to LGBT issues, but they're getting themselves across the door and they're getting themselves into school and they feel more supported in that. As I say, I was going to show you a video, we don't have time for that, but this is some of our young people here at the Diversity Day, and that unicorn isn't this guy here. last year Purple Friday I dressed up as a unicorn, and this year my mum works in early years, hence that. So she's like, I'm going to get you a mascot costume. So anyway, that was our representation. This was our Guess Unicorn birthday. That was pupil-led learning. The pupils decided they wanted to take ownership of something, and that's what they did. They're a mad bunch, they're mental, and if you have a group in your school, you will find that they are also mad and they are mental. But giving them the space and giving them just to be themselves. As I say, I was a young budding probationer and I was bright ambitious, not a Scooby-Doo what I was doing, but I had the drive and I was like, do you know what, I didn't have this representation when I was at school, and it's really important to have someone who looks slightly older than me. I know I'm 12. To be the one who's standing up and going, this is okay, this is alright to be who you are, and talking about my partner and your partner and your partner's partner Nicholas or Nicola. Oh my god, just oh my god, so just have these conversations.
She told us that.
We have a responsibility to get it right for every child, and these are the children that we need to get it right for. These are the children that are going under and that are not coming to school and that are being missed out, and they're not necessarily your Cindy 1 and 2, and they're not necessarily where the push is. In your school you've got, your pay fundings for this and that and next thing. No, you can't forget with these kids. These are the kids that we're teaching day in and day out that are slipping under the radar, and we can all do it. So, they're the kids in my school that I'm affecting. You guys can go and do it in your own school. Don't be scared. Get a bit of George Michael on the go, and you've got to have faith, right? Do it.